Welcome, everybody. We're back again for another beautiful episode with an amazing new guest, Amanda Blaire, who is residing in the beautiful Cochrane, Alberta, near the Rocky Mountains. She has Amanda Blaire Wellness. She's a beautiful shaman and energy healer, intuitive reader, spiritual coach, retreat host, which we'll get into a little bit more details in our beautiful conversation. So she's really working to help people to overcome the emotional and mental blocks through mindset and realignment and that deep spiritual connection. So when we've lost our way or we've hit these roadblocks, Amanda is there to help us to ground and center and find the messages that are coming for us that we need in our lives. And so we're also working together to bring some beautiful things in the future together. And we connected at a beautiful retreat last year in May in Canmore, Alberta. And it was just amazing, just a spiritual connection right away. And we've kind of just dabbled in conversations. So here is Amanda. Welcome and take it away. Anything that you would love to share that you want our listeners to know?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. And yes, it's so interesting reflecting on how we've connected because we did one class together. I remember you walked in the doors and I was getting ready to host a class and I can't remember what it was. And you had said to me, "Oh, well, I'm here and I'm presenting and I've got a class tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll see you there." And it was just like right from there, it was like, let's collaborate. How can we come together to offer an amazing experience? So I love that we're starting here with the podcast and looking forward to watching that grow. But yes, thank you for the beautiful introduction. So I do a whole host of things.
Yeah.
And everything that you kind of mentioned. And I think the biggest thing for me is I've got certifications and trainings and all kinds of things. And my motivation for that is because I want to meet people where they're at. I think that that's the biggest thing. And what works for someone now might not work 5 years from now. And what you need for 5 years from now might not work for you now. And so I really want to have a well-rounded, robust approach and toolkit so that wherever someone walks into my office at, I can meet you there and I can give you tips, tricks, techniques. We can work through some energy work. We can do a whole host of things. And if it doesn't align for you today, maybe you circle back to it later, maybe you don't, but at least you're now equipped and we have a whole bunch that we can choose from to
Yeah.
figure out what you need. And I think that's the biggest thing. We all need something different. There's no blueprint here. We're not all the same.
Exactly. And I love that about the work that we both do is because it doesn't have those strict parameters or, it doesn't have to reside within four walls. It
Mhm.
can be whatever it needs to be. And sometimes you think that you have a handle on it and it just takes a spin in a new direction. And I think we're seeing that more and more coming
Yeah.
into the healing and into the therapy spaces because the systems are changing, people are changing, they're seeking something different. They're coming into that connection with that deep spirit and that soul within.
Totally. And I think the biggest thing is about empowerment. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if you find this, but I definitely find that people that land in my retreats or in my events or in my office for one-on-one work, they're so often seeking something outside of themselves.
Yeah.
We get people who come because they're doing really well and this is just part of their spiritual maintenance and that's amazing. But a lot of people come because they're going through something really challenging or difficult and they really need time for themselves and they're searching for something. And the
Mhm.
biggest thing is that we have it all within ourselves. We just have to take the time to step back and remember and really just go internally and have the tools. And I think the biggest thing is just I really want to empower people. That's my goal is
Yeah.
I don't want to see people for a year or two at a time. Yes, it's amazing and I'm happy to be a part of your maintenance program, but I don't want to see somebody for a year or two at a time because they're still searching. I want to empower them so that
Yeah.
you come to me and you don't have to come back again unless you want to,
Yes.
unless you want
Yeah.
to.
Well, and I think with the work that we're doing too, whether you start with that initial one-to-one and you can work your way through things and end up in retreat where it's a real intensive program and
Yes.
that's really where you're taking all of the things and you're really putting them into the processes and really connecting people even deeper because you like me also go out into these beautiful nature spaces where they can be and disconnect and take that breath that they need to take,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's really huge, and that transformation, that empowerment, that connection, that's where you and I really, like, you did take part in that beautiful spot that I had
Mhm.
outdoors in the early morning with all the birds and the stream, and we just connected and we brought people back to the earth, back
Totally.
to the elements, back to the pause,
Yes.
because we're really programmed to just be doers and be on that treadmill going and going and going and going. And the beauty of our spaces and our work is we get to allow people to be, we get to give them permission, we get to hold space and witness them as they do that transformation.
Yes. And
Right.
what I love about that is that seeing the transformation when we're doing retreats or multi-day events,
Mhm.
see people go from strangers to brothers and sisters.
Right.
And you see people go from overwhelmed, anxious to, I mean, one of the biggest things I hear from people after events is, I feel like I have so much clarity because we reconnected you to yourself. We tuned out all the noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything that
Yes.
goes on at home, we
Yeah.
we turned it off for a minute and you could actually hear yourself think, we're not meant to be as fast paced as we are. We are,
No.
and it's like, it is a conscious effort that I have to make even as a practitioner and a space holder to turn off the noise sometimes because it's loud. It's loud.
It is. It is. It really is. And it's such an honor to be able to actually hold that space and be that space holder. That is one of my most favorite things. And
Yeah.
it is I can see you in your work too. It lights you up to do that work and to hold that space. It's such a sacred, safe, beautiful space to hold.
Yes,
So,
totally.
yeah.
And with that too, I'm in like speaking of like reconnecting, I'm in the process of developing it. It'll come out sometime this fall, but it's going to be either a 6 or a 9 month program where it's connecting people to the healer within themselves so that, we go through this program together and I'm going to teach you everything that I do so that you can do this at home for yourself so that you don't have to, I want people to come to retreats and I want people to come see me and come to events, of course, but you don't have to do that. You'll have all the tools that you need here as we work through this together so that if you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed in the moment, you can regulate yourself. You can tune out the noise on your own. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to seeing that
Yeah,
come
it'll
to
be so cool.
fruition. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's really, I always love to dive in and see what inspires people to do the work they do. So,
Mhm.
obviously you've had your own journey to get to where you are, but I'd love to, have insight into what that inspiration is and kind of what that journey has looked like to bring you to where you are today doing this beautiful work.
Totally. So, it's interesting because I grew up in a more religious home. So I'm from a, traditional Italian family. Grandparents were immigrants. My dad's first generation. Mom, her family isn't Italian, but I was raised by the Italian side. So very, very traditional of like, you go to school, you become a lawyer, you become a teacher, you become a doctor, and that's what life is. And you work hard and you get good grades. And I always kind of felt like almost the black sheep a little bit because I did all of that and I was good at it. I got good grades in school. I didn't apply myself at all, but I did well enough. And I did go to university for pre-law. And, I've got a pre-law degree, and the goal was to go to law school and do all of that. And I was just like, this isn't for me. Like, I'm doing it because I'm told, not
Yeah.
because, not because I want to. And I'm so grateful for all of that because I learned so much in the process. It teaches you dedication, commitment, hard work, et cetera, et cetera. Like it serves its purpose for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm originally from a smaller city called Thunder Bay, so in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And when I was 23 years old, I moved across the country for the only reason that a girl ever moves across the country at that age. There was a boy. So together we moved out to Alberta and I got started in Edmonton and things were good while we were together for a couple years. It was a lengthy relationship, but we only stayed together for a few years after we moved. And when that relationship ended, the downward spiral that I went down of just yes, I had some friends, but nobody that I was super close to. I ended
Mhm.
up gaining some really close friendships in that period of time. But I went from my family to him, and I'd never stood on my own 2 feet before. So this would have happened. I would have been about 26 around the time.
Yeah.
And the abandonment wounds that came out, my
Mm.
God, I can't even, like, being on my own and having nobody to turn to. And I remember, I swear to God, I remember laying on the floor of this little 2-bedroom basement suite that I was renting with a roommate. And I was just like, I don't even know if I can get up off the floor right now. Like, I am just like, I feel so like I don't even know what it's like to be on my own. And so it was like a series of bad decisions over like 4 or 5 years after that, of just like, I didn't know who I was. I had no idea who I was. And when people would ask me who I was, it was like who I thought people wanted me to be. I didn't go into the career that I thought I was going to land in. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was outside of a relationship, whatever else. And so the real kicker for me after that was a few years after that. I ended up getting pregnant and was pregnant with a baby I knew I couldn't keep. And it didn't feel aligned for me to keep it in any capacity. And I ended up having an abortion. I terminated the pregnancy. And that was the absolute lowest point for me, where I was like, it was, and I've always been, pro-choice, but it
Yeah.
was never a position I thought I had to be in. I always said, if anybody ever has to do that, and I've supported people through it, but I said it will never be a choice I make for myself, because I felt so deeply that I wanted to be a mother. And so to find myself in that position and to find myself having to make that choice, it took a lot of self-forgiveness to get past.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really did. And so I started diving into more of it. There was somebody in my life at the time who opened me up to Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, The Magic.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a few things that had kind of come up with that, which was really good. And just some books and, experiences that this person had opened me up to. Tony Robbins was introduced to me, and people like Rachel Hollis and all of these, inspirational, motivational, self-help, things that I had never heard of before.
Yeah.
And I even remember throughout this period, I had met a very dear friend of mine who, she's highly intuitive. She doesn't do it professionally, at least didn't at the time. And she said, Amanda, you can do this. Like, I'm not psychic. I'm not special. Like, you have this ability. You're just so blocked. You have to tap into it. And I'm like, oh, that would be so cool. I would love to be able to
Yeah.
do stuff like that. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. And the more that I took a dive into this, and the more that I started to learn who I was at the root, I had done a course called, I think it's your 12 Sacred Gifts or something like that. I can't remember now. This was years ago. But it talked about, what are you good at? Because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, what do I put out into the world? What is this? And so one of the things that had come up for me was the gift of writing and the written word and all of that, which was something I always loved doing. When I was a kid, I used to write poetry or,
Yeah.
songs or whatever. I would journal like crazy. I had books and books and stacks full of them. Um, and so I got an idea to write a book. And so what I started doing, and it didn't necessarily start as a book, but this is where it came from, was in order to move past the abortion, I started writing letters to my daughter and talking to her about what I was going through and what my experience was like, and just that connection with her. And so this became the book idea of Letters to My Unborn Child. So I put it all together into a book, and this is the birth of Amanda Blaire Wellness. This is honestly how it came to be. And then I put myself out there, and I put on my social media at the time, and I was doing some personal training online. And I put on my social media because I had a network of people that, hey, I'm writing this book and I am looking for guidance. And one of
Yeah.
my friends connected me with someone who connected me with someone who, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And then I took a course through Hay House about
Yeah.
writing. It was a writing workshop.
Yeah.
And so when I was in that writing workshop, they were talking about, most authors that are Hay House authors are also coaches. And they gave the example of Gabrielle Bernstein and
Yeah.
how she does coaching and how she does all of this other stuff. And I was like, oh, I hadn't even considered that. But yeah, I would love to do something like that. And so this is how it all started. It was like very just the universe put one thing in front of the other, and that's how it was. So I was like, okay, I'll take some life coaching courses. I will, get into a little bit more of that. And it took a spiritual twist along the way. I started hosting moon circles. I started doing intuitive readings for people as that started to open up because the more I got in touch with myself and in tune with myself, the more I could open up that connection and that
Yeah.
channel. Um, and so that's how this all started.
Yeah.
And the book itself is still not published. It's done. It's not published. I got to a space where when I finished it, I did end up submitting it to Hay House, and they have a contest that they run every so often where you submit it, and if you win, you get your book published. And so they had given me an honorable mention, which was at the time I was like, well, if I'm not first, I'm last. What the hell? Like I was
Oh,
like, kind of had that opinion of, well, I didn't win, so it's not good, but that's not the truth. And I reflected back on the feedback, and I felt like when I got to a space where I had completed it, it felt like the healing had happened for me.
yeah.
So I do think it'll come out at some point,
Yeah.
but I don't have that. My life has taken such a turn,
Yeah.
and that book was the catalyst for everything that I do now. And I didn't feel like I had to put it out anymore because I
Yeah.
felt like just the process of writing it and getting it out
Yeah.
was enough.
Well, and it might, like you said, I mean, having it there, which is a beautiful way to walk yourself through the healing
Yeah.
journey of that part, what you needed, and it's that deep spiritual connection, which is what you were really doing, is connecting to
Yeah.
that essence and that energy. And who knows, you might take that piece mixed in with all the things that you've been doing since then, and it'll look very different. That'll just be a little part of it, and how
Exactly.
everything was born and how you are doing what you do now, which
Yeah.
is, we all have that journey of what leads us to where we are, what we kind of go through along the way, what doors open, what
Hmm.
things happen to us. Like you said, you had a certain view on what you would and wouldn't do, but you don't know what you don't know until you get into those positions in life, right? Until you
Yeah.
hit that rock bottom, or till you come up against that piece.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, really good message for everybody that comes into our spaces or comes into life when they're ready to ask for help, is that permission to ask for help, that permission to be gentle and kind with yourself, and understanding that we don't always know the answers, and we
Yeah.
don't always follow what we thought we would, because
Hmm.
life doesn't present that way. It's not linear, just like healing is not linear. It's not just a series, it's not just a book with chapters and a series of events and it's very structured. Life does not work that way, right? And
Totally.
so it's beautiful on how it led you to where it is now, where you are now, and into the work, and it's just going to keep on
Mhm.
blossoming and blooming. Like, you've gone from that life coaching part, and that the moon circles, which you still do readings and things like that, which are really amazing for people to catch on your socials when you do that.
Mhm.
Very insightful stuff, but then you're going now into the deeper work, into the bigger stuff, and I now know your partner, and you
Mhm.
were doing some really cool work together. How did that come together? I would love to, if you're wanting to share,
Of
just kind of
course.
like you guys are doing you're collaborating on some really beautiful pieces together. And, you look back at your 26-year-old self and you look at yourself now, and it's like, wow, like
Yeah.
universe has given you something pretty cool,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Very neat for sure. And something that I always felt like I knew I would have.
Yeah.
But the journey to get there, like I think if I've learned one thing, it's really to enjoy the journey because you have no idea where you're going to end up. Like no
Right.
idea. Make a plan and then laugh because you know what I mean? It's not going that way. It's really not.
Yeah.
So, in terms of in partnership, so he's amazing, and I'm so blessed and lucky to have met such an amazing man, honestly. And so he now the interesting thing was that when we met and we first started talking, and um, one of the first conversations we had was we were talking about spirituality, and I had already Amanda Blaire Wellness was already a thing. It wasn't as underway as it is now because we kind of met at the very beginning of me getting this out there.
Yeah.
But he loved the spiritual undertone of my posts and what I was putting up on social media, and he had said to me, he was like, yeah, I've actually got my level 2 Reiki. And I was like, you're a unicorn. Most,
Yeah.
most men that I come across, and I've met a lot more of them,
Yeah.
granted being in the space, but at the time, most men that I had come across weren't involved in anything like that. And I actually remember I was working with a therapist. We'll call him a therapist, but he was very much a spiritual mentor, spiritual life coach.
Yeah.
And um, he and I were talking, and I said, spiritual men just don't exist. It's not a thing. And he's like, Amanda, you're sitting in an office with a spiritual man right now. What do you mean they don't exist? He's like, I'm old and I'm married, so I'm not available. But he's like, what do you mean they don't exist? He's like, you're talking to one. And I'm like, oh, that reframe. You know what I mean? Because our beliefs
Yeah.
are our reality. So that
Yes.
reframe where I was like, oh, and then he gave me a couple other examples. And there was another practitioner that he had referred me to who was a male who was a hypnotherapist. And he said, what about him? You saw him. He's a spiritual man. I'm like, oh, okay. So my beliefs. So when Eric and I met and he said that he was into hypnotherapy, or not hypnotherapy, sorry, Reiki, and he'd been to sound baths, and he was very much like we spoke the same language. And I was like, this is so refreshing. Like, this is very different. And the whole time that I've been doing my work, he's always been supportive, but I've been looking for ways where we could do it together. And there was a big part for him of like, well, what do I want to offer? Because, he had his Reiki level 2, but he wasn't really doing anything with it. Uh,
Yeah.
and he had to figure out where he wanted to be in this. And
Yeah.
so we got to a point where he's incredibly creative, incredibly talented when it comes to like art and creating art pieces and things like that. And even like musically inclined, like loves music, really, he feels it within his bones kind of thing. And I said, I want to get sound bowls because I said I pay people to come in and do it. And for sure, sometimes you want to have people come in and play the bowls, and everybody brings their own medicine. So you can have 3 people that play the bowls, but you're going to get a different experience from each one of them.
Yep.
I said, but we pay people to come in and do these at our events. And I was like, I want to bring that in. And I feel like that's something that we could do together. What do you think? And so he is like such a researcher, and he, dove into it, and he was like, okay, I want this bowl set. And he did the entire setup, and he was like, yeah, let's do bowls. And then it led to the flute, and now we've got a gong. And it's just like all of these things that we've pulled into it. What I love about having the masculine a part of these events, and we've only just started this. I think we had
Yeah.
our first. He's been helping me behind the scenes with most of my events.
Yeah.
And he's a staple at all of them. But I think that the very first time that we actually did an event together was just this last April. So it hasn't been that long.
No.
People loved it. They were like, we love having the masculine energy here. And the women that come to the events are like, there's so much healing around the masculine for
Mhm.
women, and vice versa. Like, I mean, there's a lot of healing. I mean, both genders we've not been good to one another. We haven't.
No. No.
And we haven't been good to ourselves, let alone one another. But there's so much relationship wounding. And so to have the healthy masculine there and to show
Mhm.
these people that, you can have the healthy, relationship piece, and you can be held in a safe container by the masculine. The masculine doesn't have to be scary or something that you have to be afraid of. It can be something that you can lean into. It's
Yeah.
been so beautiful. Now, that said, we have had quite a few people say, "Oh, you guys are couple goals," and I'm like, there's times I can't stand this guy. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's great. I love him. He's fantastic. But also, like, don't put us on a pedestal. And that's the biggest thing.
No.
It's like,
Yeah.
don't put us there and think that like everything is great and amazing, because we have a healthy relationship, yes, but we still have our challenges, and we still, you know what I mean? So like, I always want to remind people that healthy friendships, relationships, whatever it is, still take work, and they're still hard. It's,
Yeah.
but it's a blessing to be able to do it with someone who is on the same page, who, I love and respect so deeply, and where we can give this to the world, because there's not many men out there. There really isn't, that are stepping into this work.
No, and I think you're seeing more and more. Like I have Sean who comes and does the sound healing out of
Yeah.
Kelowna. I should say sound journeys, very different things, whether it's a sound bath or sound journey, two very different things. But
Mm.
having it's very interesting to see how the feminine receives that beautiful masculine energy, and he has the most incredible balance. But to
Mhm.
see how it, at first they're like, oh, okay, so how do I do this? And then
Yeah.
because, and I think your partner is very much the same way, they can create that softness, like it's
Mhm.
okay, come on in. It's This is a safe space. This is,
Mhm.
a place where you can be nurtured. There's no judgment. It's unconditional acceptance and love that, when you're holding that container. So I love working with that. I mean, it just brings such a different piece to the healing. And like you said, we have not been so nice to one another. Our
Mhm.
balance is off, which it is collectively. That masculine and feminine has been all over the place. And now people are really seeking that equilibrium within themselves. Like, let's stop, being up here and having to be masculine and feminine and go, 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 go. Let's come back down. Let's lean into the earth. That's which is what I do, is get people to lean into that, into the elements and the seasons, and leaning into the earth and find that balance with Gaia. Because
Yeah.
there is really that, and you're seeing that, and nature's playing out what's happening with us too as humans. And
Mhm.
so, when we get into that, us as spiritual beings, and looking at it from a different lens,
Mhm.
which is what you're doing by what you guys are creating. You're being intuitively led. You're
Mhm.
trusting that, you're showing people, and you're saying, hey, life is not perfect, but here are the gifts that we can give you, and the tools and the transformation and the space and the energy to see what it could be like
Yeah.
to have that balance and find that again,
Totally.
right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and you just did a beautiful one in a gorgeous location.
Yeah, Waterton.
Like, beautiful. Like, that
Oh,
looks
yes.
very transformational, and what an incredible place for healing.
Yes, and it was a small group that we had. So it's
Yeah,
us plus 6 people. That's the capacity for the lodge. It was
yeah,
beautiful. It
yeah,
was beautiful. And, being able to disconnect and reconnect, which we've talked about,
yeah,
it's such a gift. But even there, it was 6 women who were there, and the feedback that we got from them was like, even just having Eric's presence there, having the masculine presence there, he doesn't
yeah,
even have to do anything. Just by being there and
yeah,
being a part of it is so healing for people. And it's interesting to see people come off, like you said, how people will come in and they're a little standoffish at first, like,
yeah,
can I trust this? And
yeah,
he's very aware of that. He's
yeah,
very aware that women have a lot of trauma and people have a lot of trauma for that. So he's
yeah.
very aware, and he's very respectful of boundaries. Um,
Mhm.
and he just, just being that soft, gentle space, and to see them open up afterwards, and just,
Mhm.
it's beautiful and it's wonderful. But yes, that Waterton retreat was, oh, it was incredible. I could have stayed there for a week, like normally you'll go to a retreat, and when it's time to leave, you're like, oh, I don't want to leave. This has been so amazing, but like I'm ready to go home, and I'm ready to integrate, and I'm ready to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm ready to take these tools and go. We could have
yeah,
stayed there for another week at least. It was the perfect location, perfect group of people. It was
yeah.
so good.
Well, and it's amazing too, because each retreat, and I don't know if you see this, each retreat is so different
Yeah, oh, totally.
depending on the venue,
Yep.
where you are, the people that are attending.
Yeah.
And I love that part because it's you can plan all you want, but when you get there and everybody comes in, and I mean, the first person who registers is the one who actually sets the container,
Yeah.
and all the other people who come in to sign up and to attend, they meet something within that first person. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you see that as well, but it's incredible how that happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes through ebbs and flows. People will come in and they're like, yeah, actually no, they'll back out, and somebody else will come into that space, and I'm like, wow, like, this, it's very fluid
Yes.
in how people find you and how they lean in
Hmm.
to the experience and what draws them in.
Yes.
Usually there's something similar within every single person who attends, a little thread
Yes.
that just draws them in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
find like there's to see, especially when you do the multi-day ones, it's a little bit
Mm,
harder if you just do a day event, or even if you don't do like a, because I do some bigger events where every spring in Cochrane, I do a big event and it's, our capacity is 80 people,
yeah,
accommodations aren't included,
yeah,
very similar to Rocky's Restorative. So that
yeah,
one's a little bit more challenging. Like people are still building relationships and it's amazing and it's beautiful and there's a ton of growth, but it's a little harder to see it because you're not as immersed in it.
yeah,
Um, but to see in those smaller multi-day events where we're staying together, we're eating together, everything is together,
yeah,
um, to watch how nobody is ever alone. Like there were at points during that Waterton retreat where um one of the girls was going through a hard time and there was someone else out there doing some Reiki on her and helping her and holding space for her and even giving her a hug and giving her an opportunity to move through what she needed to move through. Somebody
mm,
else was having a reading done by one of the other girls downstairs. Like nobody was ever going through what they were going through alone. It was just such a supportive space. And so to bring people together like that, where it's coming together in brotherhood and sisterhood, where it's like
mm,
no judgment. And like you've said, that, that unconditional, radical love and acceptance of just like, I'm meeting you where you're at. I'm here for you where you're at. We're going through this together. And, it makes you
yeah,
feel like the world isn't so bad, because there's so much
yeah,
fear out there, especially
there
now.
is,
The
yeah,
political landscape is just like, you
yeah,
know, there's so much being pumped out and there's so much fear. And then you
yeah.
you do something like this and it's like, but it's not that bad. There is so much love.
Do you think, I mean, is that's what also drives us, in the world that is just so turbulent and fear driven and just out of balance. I feel that drives me more. And I
Yeah.
want to do more retreats and longer retreats and because I see that with people. I see the
Yeah.
love and the acceptance and there's no judgment. There's people are just able to be who they are
Yes.
and meet themselves again and let press pause, like you said, on all those expectations, all that crap that's going on, and disconnect
Yeah.
and reconnect that the depths of their spirit and of their soul.
Which ultimately is like we've said, love. And I remember a story actually. I was in the emergency room. It wasn't anything serious for me. This was a few years ago. And there was this woman beside me who was in a substantial amount of pain. It was very obvious.
Mhm.
And this older man was leaving with his family. They had finished whatever they were there for. And he walks up to this woman and he says, "Ma'am, you look like you're in a lot of pain." And she said, "I am." And he said, "Can I say a prayer for you?" And it was the most beautiful moment to witness because she said yes. And he just put it makes me emotional even talking about it. He, put his head down and said a prayer for her. And it's like that is what we need to be doing for one another.
Yeah.
That it's moments like that. It's reconnecting with, we are all going through it. And that took that man, honest to God, 3 minutes maybe out of
Yeah.
his whole day. But what a blessing for me to be a witness to, and what a gift to that woman, you know what I mean, who was in pain, who for
Yeah.
that moment I can imagine felt maybe a little less alone, or
Yeah.
whatever that brought for her. Um, that's the reason why, we do this to connect
Yeah.
people, well, at least me, to
Yeah.
connect people back to their center and to have that love and compassion and to take a moment and be like, wait a second, this isn't all about me. And you know, with everything going on in the world, there was an interview that I had watched recently. I can't remember for the life of me who it was. It was some spiritual figure. It was, oh my God, it was Deepak Chopra. That's who it was. And he was talking about some of the political leaders that we have. And he was saying they are just deeply hurting. He said, go up to them, give them a hug, tell them, we love you, we accept you, give them a hug, which is a little hard for some of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
he's like, go give them a hug. He's like, these people are acting like this because their inner child needs love. Give them love, and it's the answer to everything. And so if I can host an event, if I can host an hour and a half event and host a sound bath with some energy work, or if I can, have a 4-day retreat where people can come and reconnect to themselves
Yeah.
enough to feel that love and connection, like that's what it's all about.
It is, and it's amazing, and I think that we're all seeking that, right? We're all coming
Yeah.
back home to ourselves, and it's part of where we are now, where we are moving into that age of deep love and
Yeah.
reconnection, and it's gonna be, it's not going anywhere.
No.
It's not going anywhere. And it's very beautiful to witness. And it's, I think you and I also too, everybody comes with, I always say, those little red radio flyer wagons, like they've got their stuff piled, is fallen off, or they've got that backpack that they're barely able to wear because all of the wounds and the traumas and all of the things are in there. And we've been warriors for so long, thinking we need to carry all of this stuff and carry it on our own, and we have, it's a badge of honor to carry this, but yet
Yeah.
we're crumbling underneath, we're falling apart, we're not able to do it anymore. So we get to set this space where people can start to unpack,
Yeah.
and they can start to let go of these things that they don't have to, it's not theirs to carry,
Totally.
and it's so amazing to watch people do that,
Mhm.
because they come in and they're just like, yeah, I got this, and then afterwards it's like that lotus flower that comes from the muck and the yuck, and takes so long, but by the time it comes out of the mud and it blossoms, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like us, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
recognizing that softness is a gift. Softness
Yes.
that is the gift that we put out into the world. And I think that we live in a world where we're so programmed to fight. We have to
Yes.
fight. We have to be harsh. We have to whatever. And and I even had this come up with a client yesterday. We were in a session together and this big warrior came out and I said, it's not about going to war though. It's about standing in your power. It's not about
Yes.
fighting.
Yep.
That's not what it is. We don't have to fight one another, but we can stand in our power. We can be empowered, you know?
Yeah. And it's just also the way we look at it, the way we reword it, the way that we give ourselves permission to look through a different lens,
Yeah.
right? And our beliefs that were given to us, they're our parents or our grandparents, our ancestors, but we're also in a time where our beliefs are changing and shifting, and they actually become our own,
Yes.
and we don't have to carry all of that other stuff, being able to be who we're meant to be, not who, like, someone expects us to be, like you said, growing up and how you were raised, and you're going to do these things. It's like, oh, but I'm actually going to go totally left field and I'm going to go over here, right? And so you're seeing more and more people coming into our spaces that are, looking at, hey, like, I've always felt driven to that place, and you're giving me permission to like peek through that door and see what that is. And it's like that sense of wonder, that childlike sense of wonder. We go
Totally.
back to that place and we're like, ooh, what magic does this hold? What is there, or I love that, because that's that reconnection back to that peace that's just waiting for us to come home.
Totally. And I think that the biggest piece of advice that I could give people is step outside your comfort zone, get away from your childhood friends and family. Don't cut the relationship. I'm not saying that. I'm saying put space there and go out and explore and figure out who you are and what your thoughts and beliefs are. Because, like you said, we get these beliefs from where we're raised. There's so much that's put on us that's not even ours that we carry. And that's how we get stuck in the cycle of who am I? I'm not happy. That's where we get to that midlife crisis, so to speak, where, you've lived all of these years and you're like, but what is it all for? What am I doing it for? I don't even, this isn't what I want. So for me, the hardest thing that I have ever been through, that I've ever gone through, which was being alone, a country, like half a country away from my entire family, my support system, that was the greatest gift that I could have given myself. And people, and this is why the work that I do, where it's like, you know, you have to take your moments of pain and trauma and hardship, and the darkness is what the light comes from. You know what I mean? Like we have to go through it in order to come out on the other side. And so don't be afraid of that, not to fear that challenge, that hardship, that whatever it is. Don't turn away from it. Lean right in. It's like the buffalo. They run right through the storm because they know that the quickest way is just to run right through it. If you try to hide from it, it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
run right through and see, because you come out on the other side and it's just like this big beautiful light of
Yeah.
everything. You step into yourself, you get to know who you are, and you have to be afraid to, to not be liked. You have to be afraid for people to
Yeah.
judge you, or so you can't be afraid of people judging you, because people that don't get it probably will. And I know I was, and it's okay because I would rather be, living aligned, authentically, speaking out and having somebody not liking that than doing something for somebody else and me not being happy. Because at least at the end of the day, I lay my head down and I'm good with what I've done during the day. I'm good. I feel
Yeah.
good about the work I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think we put so much validation
Totally.
in being accepted and being liked by others and being, fitting in. And but really that is also an illusion, because
It is.
we are abandoning ourselves
Yeah.
by doing that. And it takes time. And I feel like midlife seems to be the time where we all awaken to that. And we're like, oh, like, do I want to do this job for another 25 years? Not really, actually. I'd like to go over here because that's where I'm being pulled. And
Mhm.
it's not, there's nothing wrong with wanting to, whatever your path is. But it's very interesting how it shows up and when it shows up,
Mhm.
and I remember there's this lady, she's getting close to 80 now. And I remember her saying to me probably about 15 years ago, and she looks at me, and we had a business then, and we were just really in the eye of the community. And it's my hometown. And she just looks at me, and we're out and standing in her garden in her beautiful dome house. And like, we're just in this beautiful space. And she looks at me and she goes, "It's none of your fucking business what anyone else thinks of you."
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, huh,
Because
yeah,
that's their
you're
work.
right.
Yeah.
But we're taught to believe, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. And now, as we recognize those pieces that we were taught to believe,
Mhm.
you better behave and have good manners and do these things because you want to be liked and you want to be accepted and do all these things. And it's like, actually, no,
Mhm.
I would like to walk my own path. I mean, even Carl Jung talks about that, being authentic and break away from those walls and those norms and just be you.
Totally. Totally.
Amazing.
There's a book by Gabrielle Bernstein called Judgment Detox.
Yeah.
This book is absolutely amazing and incredible. And what she says about it is that it's the book that she puts out that most people never get through. I've recommended it to many people. Most people
Yeah.
never even open it up and read it. I will tell you, if you can read this book,
Yeah.
do the exercises, and get through it,
Yeah.
is it ever eye-opening? Because what it does is it first of all, it shows you what judgment means and what that is when
Yeah.
it's you putting it out there. So that's the first thing. But
Yeah.
it also helps you understand the judgment that comes back towards you. And it just shows you how everything is a mirror.
Yeah.
It's deep work. It's deep
Yeah.
work. And it's a challenge, but it is like I can't recommend that book enough for people because it is such a beautiful, eye-opening gift to be able to see number one, where your own, because I mean, we're human. We
Yeah.
all, we all have judgments. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Of it. We have the ego, and that is what that is. We're not egoless beings.
No.
Um, so when you can see where it's coming from within yourself, you can start to have compassion. So instead of craving acceptance from people, and instead of being like, well, why are you judging me? Why don't you like me? Why isn't this acceptable to you? You start to have compassion and see, oh, I understand why you can't do that. And I understand where that's coming from. And that's your work. And so
Yeah.
I'm not going to take your work on for you. I'm happy to be the light that shines it on you and, whatever. If I trigger people, that's okay. That's your work. I'm supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your work. So it really it shifts perspectives, and it's yeah, a great book. Great book.
Well, it brings me up with another one too, Louise Hay's mirror work.
Yes.
There's also that one, which, both of them very different, but also very powerful. And I remember when
Yeah.
I first started doing it, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
like it's like that's also being raised and being seen and not heard, right? And there's all these pieces. And so there's all of these different ways of doing things. And I think that, I know what I feel when I have someone step into my space, whether it's one-to-one or retreat, is like I just want to, I see them for who comes through the door.
Yes.
I don't have to know the chapters and the history, and I already know because I'm intuitive, and sure, we've talked a little bit beforehand, but I'm
Mhm.
so happy to meet the person who shows up.
Yeah.
And I just love holding that space and having just witnessing people receive that.
Yeah.
They can see I lead with my heart. I have no judgment. I have no expectation of them.
Yeah.
I have no ulterior motives. I have nothing like that. Just love and nurturing space, whether we're nurturing with, where we are, the facilitators we choose to come with us, right? And the foods that we nourish, all the things. And to
Mhm.
be able to see people walk in, and some, like we talked already, some people kind of walk in, they don't really know what to expect, but they know they're in the right place. You can see it in
Yes.
their eyes. Their eyes just have this beautiful light and sparkle about them, and they're like, okay, I'm scared, but I know I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That
Right.
those nerves.
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
I
it's
miss seeing
just,
that.
yeah, right. It just
I
gives
love
me, it just gives me that
yeah, because they're the
that
people that open
goosebumps,
up the most.
right?
Yes.
And like you said, that camaraderie when people come together,
Yeah.
as facilitators, we have that, and we hold that space, but watching people come in as strangers and leave as family, friends, a new soul tribe. So most people have lifelong connections,
Absolutely they do. I've met some of my closest friends at spiritual events
Yeah,
or wellness retreats. Like I really have one of my closest, best, dearest friends. We met at Rocky's Restorative, the very first one that Kate had ever put on.
yeah,
And even in going to that, Kate and I are friends, and now, so it's like you build these friendships with people because you're doing such deep work together. You are, like it or not, you're connected after that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there's vulnerability, there's tears, there's laughter, there's joy and pain, and everything is shared. There's nothing not left on the table.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most beautiful thing is also for, us as well, for being practitioners and being hosts and all of the things that we do. We also go out and receive. So we're going to retreats and we're making new connections. We're doing our part and healing, and so that we can continue to do what we do.
Yeah.
And because we're gonna, until we don't have a pulse, there's always stuff that's gonna be there. And so in us doing the work, we're also going out and doing, allowing that work, that space for us to continue to do that deep inner healing and connection and expansion.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
I
it's
love that.
it's not easy work that we do,
Oh,
even though we're passionate about it and we love it. And I mean, I come from 3 decades in the therapy background, so very rigid, very structured, and I always knew, and I've been, for most of my life, since I was at least a early teenager, I've been pushing the boundaries of like, no, I don't want to do that. But I didn't know what other way to go, right? And now
mhm.
I'm like, oh man, like bust those walls wide open. Like let's change things. Let's go through and the world is accepting all of these other pieces as we help people build toolkits in new ways.
Yes.
So as I bust those parameters, I'm watching my clients do the same thing. They're like, "Man, I've been in therapy for, 10 years, and this weekend has changed my entire life."
Yes. Yeah.
And, like it's like you said, to witness is such an honor.
It is. It is totally. And
Yeah.
and the thing is that, and I say this at retreats and events, is that yes, I'm holding space for you. And yes, I might be the person who created this event, who brought this to fruition, but
Yeah.
it's you who makes it what it is. It's not me.
No.
It's the people who show up. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just the guide.
Yeah.
You are the ones who make this event what it is. You are the ones who, with your vulnerability and, with your love for yourself and your seeking and all of it, like it's not me who makes it.
No. No, and I love that too, whether you're being that I call myself a guide as well. I'm a space holder or guide because I get to walk with people on that journey. I'm not ahead, I'm
Nope.
not behind, I'm right beside you.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
And it's such a beautiful journey because
Yeah.
together there's that discovery
Hmm.
that is just so magical, and you think you have, and that's when we get to allow that ego to step out of the way and that conscious mind to step out of the way and really dive into that kind of unconscious, more deeper connection. And it's really beautiful to walk that journey. Sometimes it's in silence, sometimes it's in conversation, sometimes it's through sound, through nature, through reiki, through all the things,
Yeah.
but we're just there merely to guide
Yeah.
and to, here's some tools, take them and leave them. You're going to take the ones you want. You're going to take home what you want. You're going to bring what you want.
Yeah.
and there's no expectation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and I think like, we, that is another big piece is allowing people to put down those expectations
And
and
just
they're safe. Yeah,
yeah,
just be who you are, that most authentic, raw, vulnerable version of you. And most people don't know who that is,
totally. And most people don't know that that's enough.
right? Yeah.
That's enough.
Oh, it's enough. It's just so beautiful. And I mean, it lights me up just like it lights you up. And I think that's where our connection kind of really was. And we could see that very similar piece, right? It's that deep soul connection. We have it as practitioners and people as well. And so it's just beautiful. And I remember watching, I was praying that it wasn't going to rain or, it wasn't going to be crazy. And that when I held that group in the Rockies restorative retreat, I was like, okay, so it's got to be outside. I can't do my thing in here. It's a beautiful room, but I want to be outside. I'm like, oh, it's first thing in the morning. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wet. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I'm probably gonna have nobody show up. And I'm like all the things. I'm
It
like,
was
people are gonna think I'm
full.
weird. Like this girl from BC, she's coming, she's gonna do this, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so perfect. The sun was rising up with the mountains, and we're getting there was dew on the grass. It was perfect. And there was, I don't even know, there was like 20 to 30 people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. And
Wow.
as I let myself just show up as me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't pre-script anything. I do it all intuitively. Yes, I
Yeah.
kind of know what I'm going to do. I feel out the group, but I was like, no, I don't have anything necessarily prepared because I'm trying to teach people to let go of that and to
Yeah.
just show up as they are. And it was beautiful. I had people sleeping. I had, we had so many birds and we had like all the things,
Yes.
right? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, hi, Mr. Raven. And hi, like there was just so many things that came in and there was a squirrel there. I remember him. He was quite adamant and quite chatty and all the things. And it was interesting
Yeah.
as I got to witness people, some were just right in it closing their eyes and other people kept opening up that eye to see, like, where's Raya, what's she doing, and where's that Raven, or where's this, like, it took some people a little bit to settle in,
Yeah.
and it took other people, it was instant. And I know we see that in our retreats too.
Mhm.
It takes people sometimes a little bit to just come down and land
Yeah. And feel safe.
and feel safe, right? And um that is also very beautiful to witness. And
Yes.
so, and that's where some of that energy work comes in, and where you have co-facilitators and other people, like you can be leading the main part and you can have someone else going around and just doing some gentle Reiki and
Hmm.
just, even a hand on somebody just to help them to breathe and it's okay, just land. And that's what I love. I would have loved to be three of me in that space to be able to go to some of the people,
Yeah.
but I was able to bring them into that space. But at the same time, now, as you and I have been talking about collaborating, I can feel the expansion of what that's going to look like because we're going to be able to do some of those things that not just one person can do, right?
Yes, exactly, that you need
So,
to. And that's, I
yeah,
mean, that's the beautiful thing about working in partnership, like where with
yeah,
Eric and I doing our events, because he does all the sound healing, that's his thing. And
yeah,
I'm doing shamanic energy work on people while they're in it. So it's like you're getting a double whammy if
yeah,
there's no reason to not, or there's no reason to have a block because you are so supported in
yeah.
removing them and just in being in alignment and yeah, it's
Mhm. It's
wonderful.
beautiful.
It
It's
is.
beautiful. So much great stuff we get to do.
Yes.
So if someone's kind of, they're like, man, like I'm ready. I want to dive in. I don't quite like, they're on that edge. What could you offer them as far as, some advice or inspiration that would help them to, let go a little bit of that fear and open the door and say, hey, like I'd like to try something different. I
Mhm.
know I'm being led here. I know that, but what do I do?
I would say turn off the noise first and foremost. Like the,
Hmm.
the what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
You know, ego and fear can be reasoned with, intuition can't. So when you're feeling that pull to something, when
Yeah.
you're feeling like, that feeling of I don't know how I know what I know, I just know that I know and that's all I need to know,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
So if you know, or if you feel a strong pull that you need to be somewhere, that you need to be doing something,
Yeah.
do it. Don't let that fear talk to you. Don't let it get in the way. And if you have no idea where to start, you just start somewhere.
Yeah.
You, like for me, I picked up a book. I read The Magic was the first book that I ever read. Life changing because that was the first one that put me on this path. So you pick up a book that maybe you wouldn't typically read. You
Yeah.
book an appointment, you book a consult. Most people offer, a quick consult. If
Yeah.
someone reaches out and says, "Hey, I've got some questions, but I before I book with you, how can you help me? How can you support me?" Book the consult if you're not ready for the full appointment yet. Just dive in and see how it feels and get out of the mind. We spend so much time in the mind.
Yeah.
Settle from your mind into your heart. And the way that you do that is by turning off the noise. How does it feel in your body? Does it feel good in your body? Does your heart smile? Yes or no? That's
Yeah.
all you have to follow. That's
Yeah.
it. If your heart smiles, it's a yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you offer the discovery calls for people, right?
I
Yeah.
do. I do. Yeah. I offer complimentary consultations,
Yeah.
10 to 15 minutes basically.
Yeah.
Are you okay? This is what I can help with. And a typical session with me is usually about an hour. People will come in, we'll chat a little bit. We usually have an element of energy work. And so with energy work, I'm a Reiki master and I'm certified in shamanic energy work as well. So we'll do something like that. Sometimes we do a reading, sometimes we do exercises, sometimes it's guided meditation, sometimes it's breath work, sometimes it's, EFT tapping.
Yeah.
It's a whole host of things. It really depends on what you need and where you're at. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because that's the great thing about the work that you're doing is it's very fluid. It can be
yeah,
whatever the person needs. So everyone shows up completely different. We're all unique. We're all different, and we all need something different.
yeah. And there's
And
no prep work. Like you said, there's no prep work. It's like
no,
you come in and we figure it out.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's so fun, and
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to have all of those tools available to us, so
Totally.
that we can then offer them to those who are needing them, right?
Yeah.
And building their toolkit or revamping it or whatever they're doing with it or making a brand new one.
Yes.
Right? And so, and do you offer that like for your retreats and stuff that you do too? Do you do the same kind of thing? Do a quick little discovery call, say, you know what, you're super interested. Here's what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. Do you do
Yes.
that? Yeah. Okay.
If people want that for the bigger scale ones that I have, so the ones I offer a few of them in Cochrane and we do them at the Cochrane Ranch House. And so it's a bigger capacity. So I've got one coming up in the fall where it's a 40 people capacity and then the one that I do every spring it's 80. So for that one, people can just sign up. If they
Yeah.
have questions, I am always available. I get emails, I get Facebook messages, Instagram messages. I am like always happy to hop on a call or, respond back and forth with email. For the ones that are more of a commitment, people will have a lot more questions and I'm happy to do that too. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I'm just the guide here. I'm just the space holder. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy to tell you what the plan is and what the theme is, but ultimately it's you who decides.
Right. Exactly. And I think, that's what we get to share when we do those discovery calls
Yeah.
because I do them as well for people. And it's like, here's what I can tell you. Here's, yeah, we're going to have all the meals and these are going to be the accommodations and here's my facilitators, but it's going to take its own
Yeah.
way. And I laugh because I always have people love to have an itinerary or a schedule. And I'm like, it's going to change a few times. So I always say I have this really flexible and fluid itinerary.
Yes.
You have to be willing to allow the change and
Yeah.
know that maybe we're not going to do a sound journey at 10 a.m. It might be at 7 p.m. Even
Yeah.
if I say it's going to be one, depending on the day and how things play out. I like, we know we're going to have breakfast at a certain time and maybe lunch around a certain time, but
Yeah.
that's the interesting piece is when you get to connect with people is to give them permission to be okay with that.
And to go with it.
Yeah.
Like
Go with
be in
the flow.
totally be in the feminine flow because
Yeah.
we lack that.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're masculine, feminine, non-binary, doesn't matter what it is. We all have the masculine and feminine energies within us. And we live in a masculine dominated world of go, 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 do, do, do. So it's
Yeah.
okay to be in flow. It's okay to go with how you feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there any last words of wisdom or anything that you would love to leave the listeners with? I'm going to put all of your information with your Instagram, your website, Facebook, all that stuff so people can find you.
Mhm.
But is there anything that you would love to just that final words of wisdom that you would love to leave the listeners with?
I think the biggest thing is just follow what makes your heart smile.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. That's all we have to do. Turn off the noise and listen to what your heart says. That's it.
I love it.
Sounds so easy. It's
Yeah.
not, but
But it's not, but it feels so dang good when you do.
it
Like
does.
you
Totally.
when you lead with your heart, the world lights up.
Yes. And you can't, there are no wrong decisions. Like there
No.
really are not. We think that there's right and wrong. There's not. It's just this path or that path, and they all end up in the same place anyways most of the time. So it's like it's just whether you're taking the scenic route or not, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you and for your time and just
Yeah.
sharing your story and a bit more about your journey and the work that you're doing. It's just beautiful. And I'm so can't even wait to get to our collaboration or I feel like there's more than one.
I'm sure.
There's going to be many. It's not aligned quite yet, but we are building and we're seeding it and we're tending to it and we're just allowing the universe to help us develop that. So stay tuned for that and stay tuned for all of the goodies that you're going to be offering throughout the rest of the year. I know you've got some more events planned and we can share that with everybody as well in all of the show notes. And yeah, just I'm so grateful for you and for your time today.
Oh, amazing. Me too. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lovely hour that we've had together.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you.